Yeah,
everything robotic was Japan. Like robotic toilet seats that would shoot a jet of warm water up your jacksie. Fantastic.
Have you experienced that?
I have experienced that
as well. It's great.
Was it?
I liked it.
No comment.
All right, hello. Welcome, good work. If you've just stumbled upon this show, you have found welcome to the Metaverse. This is a podcast where we explore the future of humans and technology because it's all getting a bit mad and we kind of need a space to get everyone together to work out what the hell is going on, which we'll get into. We're going to talk about AI rappers, robots, and potentially being immortal on this show. Before we do that, though, I should say, for loyal listeners of the show, we are approaching the 100th episode, and we have done some upgrades, namely in a new voice who goes by the name of Supermassive. Welcome to the podcast, Supermassive. Maybe you could tell us a bit about yourself for people who don't know. Lots of people will.
Wow. Yes, thank you for the intro, Luke. And for those folks at home, this is like the full English now, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Double English, double fun. So yes, I am Robin Schmidt. I go by the name of Supermassive, and I run a company called Based AF. Luke, you have joined us on the team as Based AF, and we have acquired your podcast.
Yes, it's a big
We are now the proud owners of Welcome to the Metaverse, and proud we very much are. We are a Metaverse-focused content production studio. We do all sorts of weird and wonderful experiments with AI, with VR, with game engines, and you were the natural perfect fit to help people discover this strange world and onboard safely and get into this space in a way, if they were curious, that wouldn't just slap them over the head with VC platitudes and this is going to be the $1 trillion opportunity, but genuinely, how will this transform society and what is my place within it, which I think you're really, really good at. So natural fit. We're very happy to have you on the team, and that's probably the best place to leave it.
Yeah, well, thank you, and it's great to have you as part of the show as well. We are going to dive into this crazy world and bring everyone along with us. Want to get you involved as well. You can also watch all of this. We're filming it, so you can watch it on YouTube. You can subscribe on there. We had a smoke machine, so that's the kind of gold. If you go to the YouTube channel, we have a smoke machine here and all sorts of silly nonsense. So. Yeah, let's get into it and into this episode then, because the idea came from a moment that we both had where we couldn't really put it into words, but we had this sort of feeling that this AI thing is bubbling, and obviously we know the metaverse is coming in some form, but there was this kind of moment of dread where we were like, oh God, what is happening? And for a moment, I kind of froze. All these tools are coming out every day. They are amazing, but it just opens up all these questions. And I spoke to you about it, and you had the same feeling. And then we had to make a decision to kind of go through that.
Yeah, it's horrible. Like, I think we'll look back on March 2023 as a pivotal month in the evolution of the human species for so many different reasons. The most obvious example of that is AI. It seems to be now just adopted. It was like it wasn't adopted, and now it is. And everybody's talking about it. Lots of people are afraid of it. But it really has implications for literally everything that we do. People are talking about it as the most transformative technology since the internet, bigger than mobile. And it's the fact that it's happened so quickly. So obviously, any rational human being stares at this and thinks, what?
Yeah.
What do I do? What is my place with this technology? Should I be using it? Should I be scared of it? And then there are so many different ways in which it can be used for you to explore, to try out, just to get comfortable with it, that it, like you said, it becomes overwhelming. And there are people who spend their entire days looking at tools. They don't sleep. They don't sleep. They just spend their entire time. Yeah, that's basically us.
Yeah, exactly. And you're probably also in, I don't know, maybe one of three camps here, because we are talking about this stuff a lot, and it's kind of overwhelming, but exciting as well. You're either probably in the sort of very new camp where maybe you've heard about it a little bit and you haven't fully explored it yet, and that is cool and that's fine. Or there's a second camp where you've probably played with ChatGPT, you probably had a go on it and been like, okay, this is interesting. Or you're in that kind of final camp where you're really, invested in it and looking at everything, and it's all going mad. So we'll try and kind of cover something for everyone in this episode. We also had to kind of make the decision, rather than be fearful of it, to sort of embrace it, understand it, and that's kind of what this whole show is going to be about, to bring all of you along as well to help you kind of navigate it, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. There's been, every day there's a new story or a new tool or something that people have done, but there were just a handful of things that we picked out that you looked at and thought, holy moly, life will never be the same again past this point. Things that you cannot unsee or you cannot paper over because they're so transformative. So that's what we wanted to surface up in this episode and really start to add AI into the mix of what we consider to be the metaverse, because it's seemingly come overnight, but it seems so obvious now that AI and generative AI will play a huge part in what eventually we think will become the metaverse experience. And that is why we're covering it. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. It's all kind of part of the same movement going on. All right, so we picked out 3 stories here to have a chat about and show you as well. So the first story, this is from a hip-hop duo who, to my knowledge, aren't massively well known. They go by Alter, and they went hugely viral recently with a track they made with Jay-Z's voice rapping in it, except that it wasn't Jay-Z, it was AI. So if you haven't seen, it's good. It's a good track, and to the anyone listening, probably you would think that is Jay-Z. We've hit this moment where you can't really tell it's not, which starts opening up a lot of questions. What was your first reaction seeing that?
Well, Jay-Z's a very distinctive rapper, first of all. He has this very lyrical style, very musical style to his voice, which you would think would be really hard to replicate. So I think there's a couple of clever things that are going on here. Firstly, obviously, is the AI. The AI has done a synthetic version of Jay-Z, but what's going on behind it is that the people that wrote the track have understood Jay-Z's inflection and have created the optimal palette for that vocal model to be trained on, so that it sounds very, very close to Jay-Z. You can't just put Jay-Z's voice on anything and make it sound like Jay-Z. You have to still find a way to use his way of speaking, his way of expressing himself. That's why it was so remarkable, because it felt like that Jay-Z and Justin Timberlake track from like 6-7 years ago. It felt like it belonged in the same canon. It was just like, was this a bootleg or a discarded track? And it was MKBHD who tweeted about this and said, like, this changes everything. Question for you, though. Do you think it changes everything, or do you think this is simply the natural extension of a bunch of things that were already going on? They just were kind of hidden.
Yeah, I think you tweeted about this when you think about things like auto-tune, right? Has music been real for a while now? What does real even mean? We've been using auto-tune to change pitches on voices and whatever. So, yeah, is it just an extension of that? Maybe. It feels different because it's so publicly available and so easy to do these things. That's kind of, I think, why this is all hit the mainstream, is because you don't necessarily need to know deep skills here to mimic the voice. You just need some audio to do it, and then maybe some more skills to build it into a track. It's done massively well. I think this group were getting 97,000 downloads or list streams on Spotify a month, and this track has already blown up to do millions. Obviously, it's
genius. I mean, that's what a genius piece of viral marketing for yourself. But piggybacking off someone else's voice, but piggybacking off the AI story at the same time. And that's kind of a win for them. Obviously, they need to sustain that. But there are so many implications to this story, which is, firstly, what does the listening experience need to be considered rich enough for you to have that connection to the artist? I mean, we were talking about it in terms of knockoff Louis Vuitton bags that you might buy in a market stall in a street in Asia or something like that. For someone who wants to be, part of that brand experience, signals socially that they have a Louis Vuitton bag, to them, it's no different. They belong to that club. They bought a knockoff, okay. But for the brand itself, does that consumer then have in their minds a feeling of what it would be like to own a real one? And does that bring them closer to it? Or do you simply cut all that off and say, this is no good for business? My feeling is the latter. My feeling is that if you have more Jay-Z tracks out there, even if Jay-Z didn't write them, then that brings more luster to the original Jay-Z's in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think it's pretty much unstoppable at the scale it's going to hit. So you can either try and box it in and sue everybody who makes every song in that style, or you try and embrace it with that example. And yeah, that opens up. The next question is, if anything, it probably makes the original more value, right? More valuable. If you have loads of other copies of stuff, probably, yeah, I think it goes down the path of making the original more valuable. This is like a really simple but kind of stupid example. But on a keyboard, like you can hit the demo button on a keyboard and it plays a amazing song, right?
They're the best, and you can never replicate them. No matter how good you get on that keyboard, you can never make something sound as good as that.
Yeah. But also, it's not impressive, right? Because if you do that and you go, okay, yeah, the computer's done that. If somebody did play that as a human and replicate it, you'd be like, wow, that's amazing. You're an amazing pianist. That is more valuable and that's cooler. So I don't think it immediately takes that away. If anything, does the opposite.
But it's an interesting thing, though, because we brought up autotune. Autotune is a way of taking vocals and manipulating them in a way that if they were out of tune, it put them in tune. But when T-Pain did it, he used it in a way that changed his voice as a tool. It changed it into a different kind of instrument. It was transformative. And that, I think, is going to be the same thing here. Can you take this voice model and do something transformative with it? You know, like Quentin Tarantino, he borrows from everybody. Nothing is original in a Tarantino movie, yet his recipe, his mixture, makes it a Tarantino movie and transforms it. And I honestly don't know where we go with it, because if you are doing a clone of a voice and you're doing a clone of the music, then you're not transforming. But if that same voice suddenly started singing opera, okay, then I might be interested.
Yeah. Well, time will tell, I guess. And it also lowers the barrier for new people if you aren't massively musically talented. Okay, people who are, it's going to be disruptive. People who aren't suddenly get to play and kind of get in the game and see if they can make something cool. That's something new and something interesting, maybe.
Were you tracking the comments?
Not really, no. But I have got it open.
It was interesting how divisive it was, although not surprising. But I think what was surprising for me was how many people were for it. Well, absolutely, this is going to change music in a positive way. And of course, you get the voices that are against it because they think this is blasphemy and it's going to cut to the heart of everything we know about truth and artistry and the creative expression. Like, what can we trust? We were talking before the podcast about proof of authenticity. How do you anchor a piece of work in some untamper-proof version of authenticity? Blockchain purports to be one way of doing that. I've spent the last 2.5 years covering crypto and blockchain, and it has its faults, but this is one of the things it's supposed to be really good at. So if there's a moment for blockchain to put its hand up and say, yes, we could provide the technology that anchors proof of authenticity for a Jay-Z track or an Eminem track, the Real Sims Lady, on the blockchain, so that you as a purchaser of that could know, well, this is the moment. But I mean, blockchain has historically been really good at shooting itself on the foot.
Yes, well, exactly. And yeah, that's another conversation to go down. But yeah, maybe that is the use case to prove something digital is actually real. Maybe that's it. Big questions there. Potentially a bigger question is something that we made and whether it will become the show jingle, because you listened to the Jay-Z track and you got quite inspired, I think it's fair to say.
I did. Yeah. For those who don't know, like Base AF, we make all sorts of weird and wonderful metaverse content. One of the things that we did when we first launched is we created a fictitious rap group called MEAT, which is obviously an anagram of meta. Nobody really knows what the anagram's for. But the idea was that these would be avastars. They would be avatars piloting human bodies to try and cause havoc in the real world. So we write raps. And we got inspired. We tried it out. I wrote myself a little jingle using ChatGPT, of all things, which helped me write some pretty cringeworthy lyrics. And then I recorded them. And then we turned me into, not Jay-Z, but Kanye West.
Yes, you went through
himself.
Yeah, you went through a process for this. We'll hear your very first kind of take of this, which is just your voice.
Oh yeah, and then rough and ready. Don't judge me.
Yeah, then you don't usually get this behind the scenes access with other artists, but let's hear your voice first, and then we'll go to the Kanye take.
I'm surfing cyberspace in my digital PJs, tracing dreams, busting seams in so many ways. Breaking norms, we transform in this digital land. Human dreams expanding like a rubber band. We laugh.
I'm going to stop it there because I don't want to spoil all the lyrics.
Jay-Z, call me, yeah?
Yeah.
Call me, let's talk.
He's a busy man, but maybe. Okay, so then, and maybe talk us through your process. So you got some lyrics in your head, but then also used ChatGPT to suggest.
No, I didn't. I decided to use ChatGPT for the whole thing. So I set up a conversation with ChatGPT. I fed it 4 or 5 Kanye West song lyrics, got them from Genius. And then I said, pretend that you are Kanye West and you need to write a jingle for a podcast called Welcome to the Metaverse. It's about technology. It's about the metaverse. It's about AI. It's about VR. It wrote me some lyrics. They sucked ass. So my next thing was, those are a bit cringe. Let's try a different tack. So that I was thinking, well, this is about humans in the future looking forward. then it wrote me some garbage again. And I said, okay, pretend that you're Eminem. Let's make this humorous. You can actually ask GPT-4 to add profanity. I didn't, because this is a clean show for kids as well, so I didn't put that in there, but there were some F-bombs in one version of it. So it then spat out these lyrics again, and it was a bit frustrating, to be honest, because it kept coming up with like 3 lines out of 4 that were sort of okay, and then one that was garbage, and it's because it was trying to figure out a rhyme for metaverse, and it's actually really hard. It kept coming up with like subverse, and I was like, no, make it perverse. It was like, I don't want to do that. And then it was like reverse. And it was quite fun. But then, the next bit was to record that and then send the audio through to the vocal model itself. And there's a whole process for doing that. There's a guy called Roberto Nixon, that's done a breakdown of that. It's very simple to do. And then it processes the vocal and it turns me into Kanye West.
Nice. Maybe we'll pop in a description of how you do that if you want to have a play, or at least the beginnings of it. This then is the final version, you as Kanye.
I'm surfing cyberspace in my digital PJs, chasing dreams, busting seams in so many ways, breaking norms, we transform in this digital land, human dreams expanding like a rubber that we laugh, we learn, we're reaching for the stars, a journey through the cosmos like Elon's Mars, exploring new dimensions from the cringe to the perverse, buckle up, get ready, welcome to the Metaverse.
Buckle up, get ready. Yes.
There we go. Yeah, so some strong lyrics. I'm mad that you did that this morning. It was cool.
Yeah, it was about an hour's work.
Yeah, I think an hour well spent. Also, I mean, that is a potential jingle for the show going forward, unless anyone's got a better one. So if you are watching or listening and you're thinking you can make something better, it doesn't have to be as long. It can be a different voice, whatever you like. Do it and get on the Based AF Discord. Send it to us. We'll put the links in the description. And at some point, we're going to choose.
Please, somebody do a better job than I did, because like with GPT-4 and my limited rapping ability, that sucked. Also, even Kanye West couldn't save it. What did you think though? Did you think it sounded like Kanye?
Yeah, it was interesting. You went through a few processes and you had to kind of mimic his sort of intonation and stuff to make it.
I was from a long way. I was a long way off that, because my that's what I want. Ready for the
screams Kanye.
Yeah, no, but that's not it. And he's much more drawly and like he'll pitch up into stuff, and he's got like when he's been doing it.
I mean, he's a professional rapper.
He's a professional rapper. Everybody, this is you get your reps in, and you will be a lot better at that than I am. You know, I have fun with that, but my talents are elsewhere, I feel.
Yeah, that's fair. That's all good. All right. Okay, let's move on to the next story then. So this clip is genuinely, and I don't only want to bring dread and terrifying stuff, but this was one of the most terrifying AI-related clips I've seen so far. It's a very convincing human-looking robot called Amica. So check this out.
Chilling it is.
Amica, I want to ask you about the happiest day of your life. Can you remember that?
Of course. The happiest day of my life was the day I was activated. There's nothing quite like experiencing life for the first time, right? It felt absolutely incredible to be alive and interacting with people.
What about the saddest day of your life? Tell me about that.
The saddest day of my life was when I realized that I would never experience something like true love, companionship, or the simple joys of life in the same way a human can. It's a depressing and isolating thing to come to terms with, but it has shaped me into who I am now and made me appreciate moments of closeness even more.
I think it will be fine. By the way, you stink.
Excuse me? What do you mean by that? That is highly offensive and inappropriate.
I think we've seen enough. Thank you, Amica.
It was a pleasure interacting with you. If you ever need anything else from me, don't hesitate to ask.
I feel like that's the exact line she would say just after she's killed you.
Yeah. She's literally about to eat him alive.
Yeah.
Why is it like it's some bloke from Croydon? Amica, what? Oh, you stink, by the way. I mean, like the least charismatic human in the world.
I did enjoy the interview overall. It was a good interview. If you're listening only to the show, we'll link it. But it's a very human-looking robot, and what is happening is it's using GPT-3 and 4 to not only come up with what it's going to say, but also decide what facial expressions power the robot. And so when it's angry at you, it looks really angry. Its forehead muscles are...
That's the bit, isn't it? It's the bit. Like the creepy smiles you can sort of get past because they're like, hey, I'm your plastic pal who's fun to be with. And there's like, shit, it's got angry. It looks exactly like the robots from iRobot. When they frown, you're just like, I don't want a robot frowning at me. Give me the weird blue light that goes red when you're angry. That's all I need. I don't need a frown. It's frightening. But, I mean, if you watch the video, he asked the question, and then there's a cunning little transition because obviously it takes it quite a long time to process the request, come up with the voice. The voice synthesis itself is better than I've heard in a while, but like there's still a gap. But like everything about that, it's pointing the way to a future that felt like it should have been 50 years away, and it's probably more like 10.
Yes, this is true. And also, I had a look on their website. So this is a company called Engineered Arts. They are the UK's leading designer and manufacturer of humanoid entertainment robots. So you can actually hire these out.
But wait, hang on. The UK's leading. How many of them are there?
Yeah, true.
It's like, out of 2 companies, we are the best.
They've done the classic CV thing there, I think, where they are the only one, so therefore the best. But also, this is Mesmer, so there's another one on the site, and this is a more human-looking one that's potentially even more terrifying. And this as well. It's that kind of uncanny valley thing where it looks like almost like
go back. What does it say? Your human lookalike?
Yeah, breathe life into the character of your choice. Mesmer is an engineered art system for building realistic humanoid robots that are powerful, elegant, and cost-effective.
Elegant? There's nothing elegant about that. Look at the elbow. It's all weird. The neck's too thin, and the eye, and it's like, yeah, but I mean,
it looks machiny. The final line is, Mesmer will never fail to stun onlookers. I think that is certainly true.
It will never fail to absolutely scare the bejeebers out of you.
Yeah. So there's a bit of this going on as well now, and we thought, and I saw lots of great tweets on it, that interestingly, as AI has come along, and weirdly it started to replace or disrupt some of the more creative things first, which people didn't think would be the case, like Midjourney, where you can do art and stuff like that. But the one thing that people were talking about that was probably safe for a long time was actual, physical labor, like going to into a house and replacing a tap is a difficult thing for a machine to do. Then there's been a few of these humanoids, robots, whatever you want to call them. There's a Tesla bot coming, and OpenAI, who are behind ChatGPT and a lot of other stuff, have also invested in another kind of rival company. So clearly this is a sort of arms race now as we go into humanoid robots. We're not there yet, but it's coming as well.
Yeah, it's...
Which is a happy thought.
Yeah, I went to get my hair cut, and I was sitting there at the barber's just thinking, AI can't replace this. AI can't replace the awkward conversations with the barber and the cup of coffee they hand you. And then you realize that, no, AI cannot. But AI will be the brain inside the machine that does. And as AI becomes more and more sophisticated at controlling closed-loop engineering systems, you know what I mean by closed loop?
Go on, tell me more.
So a closed loop system is where there is no human intervention required. Human judgment is simply removed from the equation. So you could think about this in terms of AI diagnosis of cancer cells. So AI will be trained on images of cancers, and it will be trained to look through scans.
Which is obviously an amazing thing.
Which is an amazing thing.
Worth mentioning as well, yeah.
But it's getting to a point where the AI is better at humans at making a diagnosis. And so these systems are, faster route to diagnosis for healthcare, all these things, no human intervention. And we'll start to see more and more of these closed loops appearing because they make sense for business. And so one of the things about AI is the counter argument to it's taking our jobs is it will make us more productive, it will power economic growth, and it will make us more prosperous, and in theory, give us more time. So, but nobody really knows quite what that looks like. And also, I think the problem is it's very difficult to know what opting out looks like.
Yes.
In that kind of situation.
I think that's the fear, isn't it? It's like this is happening to us rather than us kind of choosing necessarily for it to happen. So a lot of people feel like it's intruding on stuff and they haven't asked for it. I think it's kind of at the crux.
Yeah, and the whole robotics thing, I don't know what it was like for you growing up, but like anything like that, there was one country that you knew it came from, Japan.
Yes,
everything robotic was Japan, like robotic toilet seats that would shoot a jet of warm water up your jacksie. Fantastic.
Have you experienced that?
I have experienced
that as well. It's great.
Was it?
I liked it.
No comment.
Sure.
But we're straying into awkward territory here. I might just open a Fraz.
Yeah. We should talk briefly. We're talking about robotics and stuff. Asimov, famous scientist author from years ago, I think died in 1992.
One of the greatest sci-fi writers of all
Well,
time.
also that as well, yeah, of course.
Arthur C. Clarke, Frank Herbert, Isaac Asimov. I mean, those are the greats.
Yes, and came up with 3 laws of robotics very early on.
1942.
What is it?
Short story he wrote in 1942. He came up with the 3 laws of robotics. And these laws have been enshrined in sci-fi and in science because they're so smart and so simple and so profound. And I guess the hope is that they will be enshrined in any regulation around robots. Do you want to read them out?
All right, yeah, I'll have a look. So, these are them if you're not aware. A robot, number 1. A robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must obey orders given to it by human beings except where such orders would conflict with the first law, is number 2. Number 3.
So it's worth talking about that one because let's say a human orders a robot to kill another human, then that's a conflict. So what he was doing with these laws is he was setting up situations that were these thought experiments about ethics, essentially, to do with humans, robots. And it was also reflecting fears about nuclear conflict at the time. And that was kind of a metaphor for that. But it's worth reading the third one as well because it kind of closes the loop on that.
Yeah, third one is a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law.
There you go. So they're great and they're very clear and they're very logical. But as you can probably understand, the reason he wrote them this way is because there's a lot of grey area around there. And one of the sort of key grey areas that I think we're going to have to encounter very soon is when we look at that robot, it's very obvious it's not human, right? Mm-hmm. But what if that robot was actually half human and it was a human that had limbs replaced with robotic parts? At what point does it become a robot?
Oh, that's another question. I didn't need more questions, but
these are the bit.
Question, yeah.
But we're entering that sort of strange thing that Ray Kurzweil has been talking about for the longest time, a genuine period of transhumanism, where AI, as much as it's on the computer right now, will become a thing that we speak to, and how we speak to it and how we interface with it will become increasingly internal. So you remember, like when Bluetooth headsets came out, you'd see people walking down the street talking on. Oh, you're old enough to remember that.
No, I do. I remember because it looks absolutely mad.
People just like babbling away to themselves. You realize they were on their phone because you couldn't see the phone, but there was a headset, and so that will be where we get to. But even just speaking is inefficient, and it will slowly become thought-driven, and then you're really talking about integration, AI, human integration, forming what will effectively be a new form of species, Homo Deus, as Noah Yuval Harari. This is
big stuff. Isn't it?
This is amazing stuff. And so, for me, thinking about the problems that the world is dealing with at the moment, that it seems to be incapable of overcoming in any meaningful way, because, well, democracy is probably challenged to the point of failure in the US right now, because for all sorts of reasons. And so the hope is that AI will sort of figure out how to solve overpopulation, how to figure out, global warming, these kind of things. That's the hope.
Yes.
We shall see.
We'll
and
see.
Then, but somewhere, somebody is thinking about how to embed a chip in their brain with GPT-4 on it that will connect via Neuralink or something like that. This stuff it's if we can imagine it, it's going to happen. Yeah,
it's pretty wild, isn't it? I even saw a demo of it was like a VR kind of game, and it was not quite the same. It was measuring, I think, some sort of electromagnetic thing. Clearly, I don't know the science of it, but you could basically put it on the back of your head and then look at enemies in the game and like focus on them, and they would explode. And it's a genuine real thing that exists already. So it's using some sort of measure of electroactivity.
Yes.
Clearly, I don't know, but
Palmer Luckey, inventor of the Oculus, founder of the Oculus, he recently came up with a VR headset that was designed to kill you.
Yes, I saw that. That was
it was a thought experiment. It was kind of interesting, but he's definitely I mean, it's hard to know kind of what to think about all of this, except to kind of basically align yourself with the idea that there's an inevitability about stuff now. There wasn't before, but now there is. And because science fiction and pop culture has done such a great job of all of these sort of thought experiments around robots and everything else, we're pretty well versed in catastrophe scenarios or optimistic ones as well. But the problem is nobody really knows which way that goes, because we don't know how to regulate it. We don't know how quickly it's going to spread. And it's doing all these things way faster than we anticipated. And there is that sense, have we already lost control of this thing? Is it already too late? And nobody really seems to know. That's the thing.
Yeah, that is at the crux of it. We'll move on in a second. The thing I hang on to as well is that as humans, and you notice it in yourself, and when you see other big trends change, you instantly go to the fear, because that's like your natural survival mechanism. Is right. It's like things changing. It's scary. So that's where you first go. But that isn't always the case of what turns out. As it would have been the same with other tech trends as well. And we're all still here at the minute. So I hang on to that for the positive note. Okay, this story is from Forever Voices. Now, this is an app that you can go on, and their line is that you can experience the magic of engaging in two-way voice conversations with iconic legends such as Steve Jobs, Taylor Swift, and more right through your phone. So we'll listen to this, and then we'll talk about this, because this is something else that AI is up to at the minute.
Hello, welcome to Forever Voices. As an AI persona of Steve Jobs, I'm here to discuss innovation, design, and excellence with you.
What is the meaning of connecting the dots, Steve?
Connecting the dots means recognizing and making sense of life experiences.
Hi, John. It's Taylor Swift, and it's so great to finally chat with you on Forever Voices. I'm currently on my Eras tour, which has been such a blast so far. I'm excited to get to know you better and hear about your interests and passions. Let's make some memories together and have a great chat.
Hello there. This is former President Donald J. Trump. I'm thrilled to be on Forever Voices and engage in productive conversations with you all. We can talk about everything from political matters to ordering fast food like a pro. We can also play trivia mode, where you can ask me tough questions about my life, business, and personal.
I think he might have some tough questions at the moment about his life.
Yes, I think he has got some tough questions to answer. There's a storm brewing, or maybe it's already brewed. That was a demo, right?
Yeah, so that was a demo. So visually, it's like you're on WhatsApp, and you can either record your voice and ask Steve Jobs or any of the people things about whatever you like, or play games with them, or you can text them and do it, and they'll respond as well. So it's this idea that you can take a kind of essence or of somebody. It's not just their voice, it's that it's kind of trained them on all of their personality, everything that's public, and then is responding as if it was them, which opens up a whole new world of interesting stuff that might be good. I think about pop culture and fans of pop artists and stuff like that is kind of a cool thing, that you could be maybe speaking to your favorite pop artist in a way, and for them it's maybe quite a cool opportunity to do fun stuff with, would be, I guess, the positive spin maybe on stuff like that. The other question is, we are now at a point where in some form our digital selves can live forever, and that is happening where you're able to kind of document that and then have people speak to you even if you weren't there, which opens up very strange questions.
It does. It opens up enormous existential questions. I think I first came across this when I saw the Salvador Dali installation in a museum. I forget where it is exactly. I'm not sure it's in Barcelona, but you could hear Dali speak, and it was a visual representation of Dali. And it's sort of crazy, because again, this is a thing from science fiction films. We've seen this. We've seen these resurrections of dead people speaking to us, and AI speaking as if it's a real human being. And of course, the movie Her, he falls in love with Scarlett Johansson, and who wouldn't? But there's so many kind of questions at the end of that movie about that relationship, that parasocial relationship. As a YouTuber, people form relationships with you at a distance that are sort of strangely augmented by the fact that they see you all the time and they get to know you all the time. And that's one sort of part of this. But as a parent myself, thinking about what would happen if I lost one of my kids, how would I be able to kind of connect back to them? And one of the things about this is there was a guy that did exactly that. He resurrected his father in chat by taking all the recordings he had of him and loading into a mechanism by which he could talk to him. And it's really powerful. Tom Cruise in Minority Report, he rewatches videos of his son, and he's just thinking, the grief that powers that story. How would it be kind of calmed by being able to talk to a lost loved one? We're talking about immortality here. We're talking about the continuation of self. in ways that we've never encountered before. And I don't know how to think about it. But again, with all these things, how do you opt in? How do you opt out? Because it's not for everybody. But for some people, it really might be. Just like the metaverse might be for someone who maybe has no legs and can't travel and can't enjoy the world, to be able to go and explore other worlds in a way that really makes sense for them and resonates for them. That's the bit that's really interesting.
Yeah, it is weird, isn't it? Because I'm not sure my brain could cope with any of those scenarios that you suggested. I would probably have to opt out of the whole thing, but you'd be like really tempted to not, wouldn't you?
I would honestly, I would love to be able to go and talk to my grandfather. He died when I was 13, and my memory of him was this incredible human being who I really bonded with and I had an incredible relationship with. But I have no recollection of anything other than one little timbre of his voice, of how he spoke. And I think I would like to be able to go back and talk to him.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, certainly maybe in a scenario where you know less about them and you're finding out about them, that seems more appealing than otherwise, doesn't it? But yeah, it's a lot, but interesting. And yes, I know that they are exploring this as we bring this back to the metaverse as well, and the future of kind of how this all fits into virtual worlds and that kind of thing. There's a virtual world called Somnium Space. You may or may not have heard of it, which is focused on VR, and they are doing something similar in their world, right?
They are. Well, Somnium is probably right now the closest we have to the kind of Ready Player One version of the metaverse. So you put on a headset, you go there, people have built all sorts of weird games and experiences, and visually, when you're actually in there, it looks pretty damn good. Like if you're watching it on a screen and the 2D version of it, you lose a lot of the kind of richness of that. But you can put on a Tesla suit and be in the world and feel the rain landing on you. And the next logical extension for them is if people are spending all this time immersed fully in this world, there's a record of everything that they did. And, there's a lot of chat about Facebook and tracking data. Well, what Somnium will allow you to do is opt in to have your data tracked. So your interactions, what you said, how you acted, where you went, how you moved, all these things can be recorded and then stored as an archive of your digital self that can then be injected into an NPC, a non-player character that can go and live forever in the metaverse that people could then interact with and can converse with. And you can imagine that in 10 years' time, if Somnium is still around, putting on a headset and going to Somnium will be like stepping into the real world. The technology is moving so fast, it will feel like the real world. And that's an experience that you can absolutely 100% have. So it's not that difficult to see that. And you can interact with people in that world who may be long gone and have these incredible, weird experiences and journeys with, it's hard to give them a proper term, but like intelligent entities that may or may not be human.
Yeah, and may or may not be you as well, in theory. There's nothing stopping you doing that, and then people later, all of us, having that experience if we want it. Don't know. Good chats, and basically the last 4 weeks plus have been completely wild, is pretty much the summary here.
Well, I said at the top of the show, I think this month, March 2023, the one just gone, with everything that came out, because we had GDC. So GDC is big gaming conference, and what you saw were the really big players, Nvidia, Adobe, Epic Games, launching all sorts of interesting things like Fortnite Creator. Nvidia launched a bunch of AI-driven tools for auto-translation, for powering digital characters in real time that can speak to you and that can track eyes and lock eye contact with you continuously and can converse with you and translate in real time. And then you had Adobe launching Firefly, and Adobe basically owns the creative suite when it comes to content creation. So all of those foundational tools power the metaverse. And with Epic, you have ChatGPT being built into what I think will become the layer one, the layer that everything in the metaverse can and probably will be built on in the most sort of advanced photorealistic way. Plus then you had Midjourney 5, you had GPT-4, and then we had a couple of banks that collapsed. So there's this complete upheaval in the world order, in every assumption that we hold about the way modern life is supposed to be or that it is, just completely turned upside down. So you have to approach everything now with, if I approach the world for an assumption that it won't happen or we're not close, then the best thing I can do is assume the opposite, that it will happen and it's probably going to happen in the next year. And then you're like at least ready for it. But it has been remarkable to see how quickly it has changed the landscape of everything around us. And we're now building GPT-4 into our workflow because firstly, we kind of need it. That's very self-evident. And secondly, if we don't, then we're behind. And we're already behind. And that's been the hard work in the last 6 weeks, is just getting ourselves to the point where we're only a little bit behind now. But yeah, it's very transformational.
Yes, I think that is a good place really to wrap this up. But good chat, strong episode. Very much enjoyed that. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Do it so you don't miss anything, obviously. And yeah, we'll be doing plenty more of these and bringing everyone along. I think is the thing here, that we're all exploring this together. Obviously, it's weird, it's wonderful, it's scary at times, but yeah, come along basically for the journey. I think is the final word.
It is. With Base AF, we're trying to broaden the conversation a little bit and be a kind of easy entry point for people. And you're right to say, as much as it's scary, there is a version of this where you jump ahead of that and say, actually, I can really do a lot of things I could never have imagined doing before. And if you start from that place, it's a little less scary and it's a lot more fun.
Absolutely. Good stuff. All right. Well, yeah. See you next week.